Hello everyone and welcome to my presentation. My name is Blake Turnbull and I'm an assistant professor at Doshisha University in Kyoto. And I'm going to talk to you today about the perceptions of value amongst ALTs on the JET program. The JET program started in 1987 with 848 teachers from just 4 countries, the US, the UK, Australia and New Zealand. And in the most recent 2019-2020 intake, there were 5,234 teachers employed from 30 countries. In total, since its beginning, the JET program has employed over 70,000 participants from 75 countries. And on their website, the JET program explains that ALTs assist with classes taught by the Japanese teacher of English, also known as the JTE, and are thus involved in the preparation of teaching materials and in extracurricular activities like English clubs and sports teams. And this concept of having the ALT and the JTE work together within one classroom is what we know as team teaching. The concept of team teaching has been around for some time, and there are a number of definitions about what the concept is, such as this one by Davis, 1995, all arrangements that include 2 or more faculty in some level of collaboration in the planning and delivery of a course. And also this one by Hatcher, Hinton and Swartz, 2 or more instructors collaborating over the design and or implementation and evaluation of the same course. However, as Shimaoka and Yashiro point out, team teaching is an approach to EFL education that has no established method nor principles which teachers need to follow. And this has often led ALTs and local teachers to be confused about their roles in the classroom as a result. However, there are a number of benefits to team teaching for both students and teachers. For students, the benefits can include things such as deepening their analytical abilities, helping to build bridges of understanding across disciplines, building greater curricular coherence, improving their student-teacher relationships, making classes more interesting and challenging because of the novelty, and also helping to improve student learning outcomes, retention rates, interpersonal skills, communicational skills, analysis, judgment, and diversity. Teachers also gain a number of benefits from team teaching, such as learning about teaching and improving their own teaching skills, avoiding the lonely, repetitive, fragmented experience of solo teaching, stepping out of their comfort zone and having opportunities to create creative assignments, seeing teaching through learners' eyes, building relationships with their colleagues, and fostering respect for their students and colleagues alike. However, a number of issues have been reported in the literature regarding team teaching in EFL contexts abroad. For example, in the EPIC program in Korea, cultural differences between local teachers and the ALTs and the ALT's lack of teaching experience and qualifications have been noted as issues. Likewise, in the NET scheme in Hong Kong, a lack of interaction between ALTs and local teachers and the ALT's inability to speak learners' first language has also been noted as a disadvantage in the classroom involving team teaching. And as Miyazato points out, ALTs are often seen as a threat to local teachers' self-esteem. In Japan, team teaching has emerged as one of the most important issues in English language education. However, it has challenged JTE's regular teaching practices, causing them to become more conscious about their own language competence and to suffer anxiety in the English classroom as a result. And as Aspinall points out, native teachers are often underused and not allowed to make the full contribution to the communicative English learning of which they are capable. As a result, many ALTs may not be contributing to their full potential in the classroom, which could result in feelings of dissatisfaction towards their job. The present study aimed to answer the following 3 research questions. Number 1, how do ALTs on JET perceive their level of involvement in the classroom? Number 2, how valuable do ALTs on JET perceive their role in the development of students' EFL abilities? And number 3, how accepted do ALTs on JET feel in the EFL classroom? The present study involved 426 full-time ALTs employed by the JET program throughout Japan. 74% were aged between 20 and 28, 12.6% between 29 and 32, and the remaining percentage over 33. The majority of the participants were from the US, followed by Canada, New Zealand, the UK, and Australia, rounding out the top 5 most populous countries. The participants had spent an average of 2 years and 3 months on the JET program. The majority of participants could hold a basic conversation in Japanese, with 34% saying they were fairly confident but still had some issues, and only 10% saying they were fluent in Japanese. However, all participants had at least some ability in Japanese to various degrees. The questionnaire survey was split into 4 sections. Section 1 sought participants' background demographic information and details of their JET program experience. Section 2 looked at how often the participants were involved in a regular English lesson and the extent to which they were satisfied with this. Section 3 investigated the participants' sense of value in the classroom, how much they feel they contribute to students' learning, and whether they believe they could be contributing more. And Section 4 looked at whether or not participants felt their presence and ideas were welcome in the classroom. The first of the findings we will look at are the participants' perceptions of their own utilization in the classroom. Interestingly, just over half of the participants claimed to be involved more than 3/4 of the time, which shows a contrast to what the literature suggests. Only 12% suggested that they were involved less than half of the time. The other category here at the bottom of the table, making up for 12.9% of the participants, shows some interesting findings whereby the participants suggested that the utilization varied depending on the type of class that was being taught. And here they made a distinction between ALT classes, in which the ALT has time to engage in communicative tasks, and regular classes, in which grammar is taught by the JTE in Japanese. In regards to their own utilization, the participants provided comments such as, "I'm involved 100% in the ALT class, but rarely in the students' regular class grammar lessons. 0% in a normal class, 100% in all the classes I teach where I made the lesson plan for, at least 10 times a week. At primary school, I'm always utilized or involved. At junior high school, I'm rarely utilized. And I teach in a couple of different schools, and it varies from frequently to almost never, depending on the school." 39.5% of the participants considered their level of involvement in the classroom to be just right, compared to 30.9% who felt they were underutilized, and only 9% feeling overutilized. The remaining percentages didn't mind either way. 44.4% of the participants wanted to be utilized more, with just 16.7% saying they did not. The remaining percentages, once again, didn't mind. 40.3% of the participants said that ideally they would like to be involved in classroom practices always, with 50.1% saying they wanted to be involved frequently. Only 7.7% said they wanted to be involved sometimes. No participants expressed a preference to be involved less than 50% of the time. Next, we will look at participants' sense of contribution in the classroom. Interestingly, 56.3% of the participants felt as though they contributed either a little bit or a lot to students' learning, with only 17.4% feeling as though they contributed little to nothing. However, despite the majority of the participants feeling as though they did contribute to students' learning overall, 83.4% further suggested a feeling that they could be contributing more to the English classroom, compared to just 16.5% who thought they could not. When asked then what prevented them from contributing to their full potential, the participants provided 7 different reasons. Number 1, the content of the class. There is a strict curriculum in place focusing on grammar, reading, and vocabulary for examination purposes that the JTEs will not stray from, so there is no room for a native ALT to teach speaking. 2, the number of schools. I teach at too many schools. I'm constantly moving. At the smallest, which I visit 4 days a term, I'm little more than an exotic guest. It's very difficult to contribute meaningfully in that situation. 3, the duration of teaching time. I have 22 classes in my school, and in the last 3 weeks I have taught 6 in total, 3 of them for only 20 minutes each to play a game. 4, the JTE. The teacher basically has her own structure and only gives me a very basic outline of what she wants to do, so even if I wanted to be more helpful, I don't know how. 5. The students. I would like to be able to do more speaking exercises, but the students don't enjoy it and don't respond well to it. 6. A lack of information. I believe I could design better and more useful lesson plans if JTEs would keep me updated with what students are learning in normal English classes. Because I'm not given this information, my lessons do not reflect what students are currently learning. And 7. A lack of experience and training. I have no teaching expertise, training, or experience. I can't speak Japanese, and so lack a lot of self-confidence in the classroom. The last finding we will examine is the participants' perception of their own acceptance in the English classroom. Here, the vast majority of participants, 80.5%, expressed that their presence felt welcome in the English classroom, compared to just 7.5% who did not. However, significantly, only 6.8% of the participants claimed their ideas for lessons and activities were accepted often, with the majority, over 70%, claiming their ideas were accepted just 50 to 75% of the time. 20% of the participants further suggested that their ideas were accepted less than 25% of the time. Those participants who did feel accepted in the classroom gave comments such as, "If I give the JTE an idea, my teachers are usually receptive and let me do it if it is well thought out. And JTEs and I always pool our ideas and agree on what does and doesn't make sense for a given class before finalizing the lesson plan." However, those who did not feel accepted in the classroom provided comments such as, "None of my ideas get rejected outright, though some things get quietly left out of lessons." And, "If I have an idea that includes a single word students don't know, the JTE shies away from it. For some reason, they believe that if students don't 100% understand everything, they will not be able to participate in an activity or exercise." So, despite the literature that suggests that ALTs on the JET program are often underutilized in the classroom, just over half of the participants in the present study suggested that they were involved in classroom practices more than 3/4 of the time. Only 12.4% claimed that they were involved less than half the time. However, this level of involvement did vary from frequent in ALT classes to rarely in JTE taught regular classes. And thus, there is still a desire amongst ALTs on the JET program to be involved more and to contribute more to students' learning. It seems that undertraining may be an issue that affects both ALTs and JTEs. And it may be through team learning in place of team teaching that we are able to address this matter. Team learning is a concept in which teachers learn from one another in an ongoing, in-service professional development regime. Here, ALTs will be able to improve their general teaching abilities in a specifically Japanese EFL context. And JTEs will be able to learn how best to utilize ALTs at all times despite the structure of the class. In conclusion, ALTs on the JET program have a tendency to suffer from a lack of job satisfaction and a sense of contribution to students' overall learning. This is likely due to a lack of collaboration with JTEs as a result of insufficient training on both sides. We must address this mutual lack of understanding between the ALT and JTE regarding how best to interact and cooperate with one another effectively. And the way we can do that is through team learning. Because, as Tsuido, Otani, and Davis suggest, sharing ideas or opinions will help both ALTs and JTEs understand each other, widen their views, and become aware of their own cultures, which is one of the goals of the JET program. In turn, this will allow for JTEs to understand and appreciate the true value of ALTs in all EFL lessons, and for ALTs to discover the true extent of their contribution to students' learning overall. That brings this presentation to an end. Here are the references that I cited throughout. Thank you very much for listening.